In this video I'm going to build every Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movie in Lego. Now there are a lot of movies to go through, some good, some not so good, so we're going to build one model from each movie, starting with the Fellowship of the Ring and finishing off with the Battle of the Five Armies. Let's get started. So for the Fellowship of the Ring there are a lot of iconic scenes which I could build to represent what is one of my favourite movies of all time, such as the beginning of the Fellowship, Bilbo's home in the Shire, or of course... But what I ended up settling on is the scene where the Nazgul get owned by the water horses as they chase Frodo and Arwen. To build this model I started with some dark tan plates for the ground, which I then started to build up a bit of a shoreline of the river. I used a mixture of dark grey and olive green pieces with a couple of pearl gold studs to add some contrast. Now it's time to add the minifigures, and for this scene we need Frodo Baggins, Arwen and also a load of Nazgul. Let's put Arwen on a horse with Frodo before we build up the water section. For the water I'm just going to pour down a load of these trans blue studs and start to build the water horse wave things using some trans clear bricks, and there we go. We have the scene where Arwen washes away the Nazgul using her special water horse wave power thing. Anyway, so onto the two towers, and the obvious scene to rebuild here is the Battle of Helm's Deep. This is probably the most iconic battle scene in movie history and I can't wait to rebuild it. So starting off I'm going to use 4 8x8 black plates for the base, and then I'm going to build up a black border around the edge and start building in the terrain for the ground. I used a mixture of dark and light tan to replicate the mud and sand. The next thing we need to do is build up the giant wall which the Uruk-hai army attempt to penetrate with the use of ladders. I'm going to build up the wall with the help of those grey masonry bricks, which gives the structure some detail. I'm also going to integrate some green elements here and there to give off the effects of weed and ivy. I also built in some pillars to add a little more depth. Then at the top of the wall I'm going to place down a couple Rohan archers to stand and take aim at the Uruk-hai below. Speaking of which, let's put some of those figures down now. And we'll also give them a ladder to help them traverse the wall and siege the castle. I'm also going to give the Rohan army a catapult mounted at the top of the wall to help them fend off Saruman's forces. But in case that doesn't work, let's build Gandalf the White and give him his horse, who's going to be standing by ready to take over the battle and save the day if needs be. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. We're trying to get to 11k. So going on to the Return of the King, which is one of the most publicly acclaimed movies of all time, I'm going to build the scene where Frodo, Sam and Gollum destroy the Ring of Power in Mount Doom and defeat Sauron. I'm going to start off by building up the wall of the volcano here at the back, using a mixture of dark tan and dark grey elements, not forgetting to build an entrance with a bridge protruding into the heart of the mountain. The bridge is propped up with a series of pillars. Now let's tile off the bridge section with some dark tan tile to give it some finishing touches. Speaking of which, I'm going to add some shards of rock on the base to give off the impression of an uneven and jagged surface. Now all that's left to do is pour down all the lava at the bottom with the help of these trans orange and trans yellow cheese slope pieces. This is looking pretty fantastic so far, but let's not stop there. Let's add Frodo and Sam, who are there to destroy the Ring of Power, and also let's add Gollum, who's going to end up being the one to thank for actually destroying the ring in the end. Before we move on to the Hobbit movies, I just want to tell you about my upcoming Whatnot live stream on Saturday the 25th of May. On this live stream I'll be doing 5 Lego giveaways that are free to enter. I'll also be auctioning off over 200 Lego Harry Potter minifigures, all starting at just $1. Now if you aren't aware about Whatnot, it's essentially a website that I live stream on where the host of the stream can auction off things like Lego minifigures, Funko Pops, toys. Now if you aren't interested in buying any of the 200 Lego Harry Potter minifigures I'm auctioning off individually, it's still worth showing up to take part in the free to enter giveaways. And if you sign up to Whatnot using my special link, you'll instantly get $15 free credit to use in my live stream, so you can pick up some free Lego Harry Potter minifigures. I'll see you on my next Whatnot live stream on Saturday the 25th of May at 8 PM UK time. Now going into the Hobbit movies, and for an unexpected journey, I'm going to build the iconic scene where Bilbo and Gollum face off in a telling of riddles. For this model I'm going to build the terrain a little differently, trying a studs on side approach, which I hope helps the bulky rock work come across better. I'm also going to integrate some of the shards of jagged rock that we see in the cave. I think that's looking pretty good so far, but we're not done yet. As you can see, I left out a section of rock work in the middle, and this is so I can pour in some trans blue studs for the water. I'm getting close to being done with this scene now, and it's now time to add the minifigures. So let's add Bilbo Baggins with the One Ring, which he's hiding from Gollum, but what Bilbo doesn't know is that Gollum is sneaking up behind him silently on a small raft. Now on to the Desolation of Smaug, which is actually my favourite Hobbit movie. I think the scene we just have to recreate is Smaug the dragon amongst the piles of gold in the lonely mountain of Erebor. The scene I'm going to build from inside Erebor is when Bilbo is hiding behind a wall while Smaug is close by, tormenting him. So to start, I'm going to build a section of wall for Bilbo to hide behind. I decided to use sand green and light grey elements for this, which I think is most accurate to the source material. We might as well add Bilbo Baggins while we're at it, who's after the Arkenstone, which is the soul of the mountain. We're then going to cover the rest of the ground with golden coins, diamonds, rubies, silver and goblets, just like was portrayed in the movie. Then we can add the Arkenstone amongst the treasure which Bilbo is so eager to get to. What's stopping him, you ask? Well, that's Smaug the mighty dragon, which we're going to build now. Well, the head at least anyway. I decided to use dark red and a bit of brown for the colour of the body. With those orange and yellow eyes, I wanted to get across Smaug's enormous size and massive teeth across in this build, and I think I managed that. And there we are. And in no time we're onto the final model. Before we move on to the final model, I just wanted to tell you about today's sponsor, which is FlexiSpot. I've been using the BS12 Pro chair, and I have to tell you it's the comfiest chair that I've ever owned, and I've actually seen an improvement with my productivity while using the chair. I think that's because the chair was designed with your health and well-being in mind. Its ergonomic design optimally supports your back, neck and shoulders, reducing the risk of long-term pain and discomfort. This is especially important if, like me, you spend long hours at your desk, which I do when I edit videos, or when I just want to build some Lego, which I'm sure we're all guilty of. So I definitely recommend picking up the BS12 Pro chair if you're in the market for an upgrade. Now let's get back to the video. The Battle of the Five Armies is, in my opinion, well, terrible, but it has a couple of good moments, especially when Thorin Oakenshield faces off against Azog the Defiler at the end of the movie. Now what's cool about this fight scene is that it's a true 1v1 that takes place on an icy lake, which is very challenging terrain. To start off this model, I'm going to build some of the crippled structure that we see in the background of this fight, mainly the steps which lead down to the lake, not forgetting to add some greebling here and there to add some detail. Once that's done, let's go ahead and build the icy lake using a mixture of white and light blue tiles, which looks a lot like the snow and ice we see in the movie. However, this doesn't really capture the cracks we see in the ice, so I'm going to build a second layer to this using some 2x4 white tiles. This should create some slim gaps, revealing some light blue underneath, which looks a lot like a cracked ice surface, which is exactly what we want. Now it's time to add the minifigures. We need Azog the Defiler, who has a big chunk of rock at the end of a chain that he uses as a weapon, so let's give him that. And then Thorin Oakenshield with his sword. Now the final battle of the Hobbit trilogy can take place. If you want to see more videos like this, then smash that subscribe button and make sure to say hello on my upcoming Whatnot livestream on Saturday the 25th of May at 8 PM UK time. Thank you to TopicBricks for being a tier 3 member of the channel, and I'll see you next time.